Mrs. Essie Chaffin found the name of a painter in a neighborhood advertising circular. The ad said professional painters at a reasonable rate. However, the ad did not say who the painters were. It did not give the name of a company or any information that could be checked out at the Better Business Bureau. However, Essie told me she called the painters and couldn't pass up their reasonable rates. Painters Scott and Kay Brazier offered to paint 5 rooms of Essie's house for about $200, and that included the price of the paint. However, then came the trouble. The Braziers ran out of paint, saying the walls soaked it up too fast. They wanted Essie to buy them more paint, which she could not afford. Then the Braziers refused to come back and finish the job after painting one room and part of another. In addition, Essie did not like their conduct in her home and did not want them to come back.
I asked them not to ever drink on the job or not to bring anything in the house, and as the first day they brought 2 bottles of beer when they found I was gone.
Oh, I see.
And then the next day, no, not that same day, I guess they brought a little boy, 15 years old, carried in a bottle of liquor.
Is that right?
And so you can see what was going on. My grandson came in, he just come in that kind of watch, And she met him over there, and she said, "Oh man, I feel better now because I went in and took a shower to cool off." Can you imagine?
She took a shower here in your house?
In my house.
Well, I tracked down the Braziers' home address, hoping to get them to refund at least half of Essie's money. I could not find Scott and Kay Brazier, but Scott's father told me he would help settle the case. Essie said she was told that Scott was given $100 to refund to her, but then he and his wife disappeared, so she never got her refund. Well, what happened to Scott and Kay Brazier? In Your Corner has learned that Scott is here in the Oklahoma County Jail. Charges filed against him June 30th. Scott is charged with obtaining a controlled dangerous substance by a forged instrument. He is also charged with larceny along with his wife Kay. She is out of jail now. Scott's record shows that he also had these charges: possession of marijuana in 1975, larceny of merchandise from a retailer in April 1980, obtaining money under false pretenses in December 1980. So those are the people that Essie Chaffin let inside her house as painters. The lesson is, when you hire someone to come into your house and do some work, it's best, perhaps safest, to run a check on them before you let them in. Check with the Better Business Bureau. See if they have a track record. Ask them for references, the name of someone they have worked for previously. It might prevent you from being ripped off. But in the case of Essie Chaffin, she did not get her money back, but it appears the Braziers will not get to enjoy spending Essie's money. Now, updating the story of the Dale Woodside family. In Your Corner's been assisting in an effort to send the family of Dale Woodside to Disney World. Dale was a coach at Northwest Classic High who recently passed away. He had always wanted to take his family to Disney World. Well, we put that word out and learned that a confirmation class at St. James Catholic Church took on the project. A garage sale and pancake dinner raised $550, but they needed about $1,300. Well, an anonymous donor passed along $500 to us, and we gave it to Father John Pittman today.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. $500.
500. I think it's all even.
I think so.
And Teresa, I'm going to turn it over to you to go put in the bank in that special account. Okay?
I think it's great. I just wish there was somebody we could thank.
Well,
thank you, Brad.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that put the total at $1,050. But the class plans to raise the rest with another pancake dinner this month, so the Woodside children can visit Disney World next month.
We're going to have one more, and I'll call you, Miss Sanders, and let you know when.
Okay.
4, 5.
500. I think it's all even.
I think so.
And Teresa, I'm going to turn it over to you to go put in the bank in that special account.
Okay?
Okay?
I think it's great. I just wish there was somebody we could thank.
Well,
thank you, Brad.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That puts the total at $1,050. Teresa Thomas, a member of the confirmation class, says the trip is set for next month and they only need $300 more, which they hope to raise through one more class project.
And I'll call you, Miss Sanders, and let you know when.
Okay. All right. Well, if Mike Hersky and his family live in a new housing development in northwest Oklahoma City. There are always problems to be worked out in a new home, but a leaking water meter is a problem that's been driving him crazy for 2 months now. Mike, when did you first notice the leak? Was it before they put the driveway in or after?
This is after the driveway was already in.
How long?
About 2 months ago this whole thing started. The builder right here actually pointed out to me and started off as a wet spot. We tried to find the meter to see what was wrong, and he couldn't find the meter, and then it gradually worked itself up into a bubbly little mess as you see right here. It continued. It was a little bit slower than this when it first started, and it just continued to get worse and worse and worse. We called the city out several times before they finally did come out, and that was about a month ago. And the guy said, well, we'll have a crew out here this weekend. And that was, like I said, a month ago. And the last time my wife called was 2 weeks ago. They said we'd call back, and we haven't heard from them since.
Mike says the leak has been washing mud into the street that he has to drive through, but he's more worried about what the water will do to his driveway.
All this red sand that you see running down into the street back in there is probably sand that's washed out from underneath my driveway. And this wet spot is not only here, but clear on the other side of my driveway. It stays wet even when it was dry here for a little bit, what little time there was.
Mike told me he isn't the only one in the neighborhood with a water leak at the meter. Across the street, there is another leaking meter, one that has been leaking longer than his.
He has the same problem. It's been going on for 2 weeks longer than mine at least. And it's been running like this. I just calculated out if it's running a gallon a minute, which is probably running more than that, you could fill up a swimming pool with that.
Why do you suppose they haven't come out and done anything?
Your guess is as good as mine. I've tried the best I could, and they just don't want to come out.
In Your Corner got hold of Bill Ingram, Water Department Supervisor, who met us at the Hersky's residence. Bill says it's a good thing In Your Corner called because a Water Department staff member had the wrong address for the Hersky's leak.
Okay, well, what we did was we had these checked routinely as we got the calls, and we agreed that there was a leak and created work order, a Code 2 work order. Now, they were followed up by a supervisor who, through an address error, was on the wrong street and canceled both of the orders, saying there was no leak, nothing needed to be repaired. Consequently, they weren't dealt with.
I see. So they can be taken care of soon, or?
Yes, both of these could be dealt with within the next day or so.
Oh, well, that's great. Okay. Kathy Street told me she had Trimble Pools installed. This beautiful swimming pool cost her and her husband about $12,000. Well, it looks great overall, but Kathy says everything went fine during the installation until it came to putting in the concrete decking around the pool.
It's a beautiful pool,
Yeah.
and I love being outside, and we have 3 children that thoroughly enjoy it, and it's so sad that, cosmetically, it's just so unattractive. Such a small thing can make such a big difference. The coping or the edging of the pool, when they poured the cement, they overlapped the cement onto the coping.
In an uneven fashion?
In an uneven fashion, and, further up the coping than it should go.
Yeah.
And instead of going back and edging it when it was still wet, or, doing something about it then, it went unnoticed. And so they came out and they assured me that all they had to do was chip it back off of the coping and go back in and touch it up, and that it would be fine.
But Kathy says it didn't come out too well. She says the contract called for guaranteed workmanship, so that's what she wants. She also noticed the pool's filtration system seemed to be reversed.
If you buy a pool, you would like to have someone help you work with it and know how to take care of it, and which they were supposed to do. And a man did come out one day and briefly go over how to maintain the pool, what was what, and cleaned on it a little bit. But we couldn't clear the pool up, and we couldn't figure out why. And my husband came out here and began to look at it, and one of the filtration systems, I guess what it is set up backwards. So actually, instead of it working on the vacuum, in the pool, the long pole vacuum, it's actually still sucking through the main drain, and vice versa. They're just backwards.
Nice. Kathy says she still owes $1,200 for the pool and is hesitant to pay it until everything is right. Well, in the meantime, I went to talk with the owner of Trimble Pools, J.R. Trimble, who cordially told me they subcontract the concrete work around the pools. He knew there was a little problem around the edge, but his workmen are not done yet. He said there are a number of things that can be done to improve the looks.
Yes, that does look a little bad, but we're still in the process of working on that. We haven't finished the pool yet, in other words. They still owe me $1,200 and something, and I haven't asked for payment. I've not indicated at all to them that I'm leaving it that way.
Trimble says as for any other problems, he hasn't heard from the streets about them. He says all they have to do is call. Trimble says once in a while there are problems around a pool, but he says he's the type of dealer that sticks with the customer until the problems are resolved, even if he has to absorb the cost.
Because we've lived in Stillwater for 2 years. We've been in school. Married student housing, you're not allowed pets. So this was a big thing for us. It was my birthday present, you know. I waited a long time, and I was really excited. And it was a cute little puppy. She's just a little doll. And it's been very hard. The hardest thing, though, is that I have no more money. I couldn't buy another one if I found one. And I think that's what hurts the most.
Ann Williams' birthday gift, a teacup Chihuahua, cost about $200. When they moved to a home in Edmond, her husband bought the pet for her and their 3 children. But after they brought it home, the Chihuahua died in 9 hours.
Sleep when my husband got home at 5:30, he tried to play with it, and it wouldn't. And I left to go to the bookstore. I was gone about an hour and a half. When I got back, my husband was talking to my father, saying this puppy does not look well. It didn't. I called Mrs. Seville to see, you know, was there anything wrong? It looked kind of constipated. She says, no, it had a bowel movement this morning, everything was fine. And Russ said, you've got to call the vet, it's dying. And so I hung up real quick, I tried to find a vet, I found Dr. Guthrie. He said he'd meet us up there in 15 minutes. We got there in about 8. The puppy convulsed and died on the way to the vet, and he confirmed it when we got there. He just died.
Now, there is no doubt that the tiny teacup Chihuahuas are delicate animals. Ann had bought one from Doris Seville about 8 years ago and had no problems with it, so she went back to Doris again. This time there was a problem, so she had a veterinarian perform an autopsy to see what was wrong. Dr. Darrell Guthrie told me the autopsy showed low blood sugar, which could have led to weakness in the dog. He said the small Chihuahuas have a problem converting sugar in the liver to blood sugar. It had not digested the food in its stomach. Otherwise, he said, it looked fine.
From the autopsy, everything looked very normal. The lungs were normal, heart was normal, no indication of any type of an infection, intestinal infection or anything like that. It looked like a picture-perfect dog. So what we have to look at is the history, what happened. It just got weaker and more depressed during the day. But you know, when a puppy gets a shot, sometimes they run a slight temperature, and that can be a relatively normal thing. But if it had been gotten too soon enough, then we probably could have given it some glucose, and you know, it's dramatic thing, just be like they're almost dead, limp, and with the sugar, then it brings them right back.
Dr. Guthrie told me he couldn't find any fault in the treatment by the breeder, Doris Seville, but he said just the shock of a new home can upset the delicate Chihuahuas. Lan Williams' husband contacted Doris Seville about the dog's death. Had she fed it enough before she gave it to them? Did she turn it over to them too soon after it had a shot? Well, Doris told me she was inflamed by the questions. She had raised the dogs for 30 years. This particular one she had hand-fed, and her vet had given the Chihuahua a clean bill of health 2 times. But she did get upset enough on the phone to say she would do nothing about it. No refund, no replacement. But Doris told me the dogs she raises are guaranteed and always have been. She was just insulted at the inference she might not have taken care of this dog. She says that was just not the case.
Like I said, I baby these dogs, and he's had his for 15 years, that one, so I know he's perfectly. Everybody has been. I think you'll find that out too. But yeah, I told him. My vet says he figured that I should give him a discount on another pup. That he didn't figure that it was my fault. He checked that pup that morning. I go up here and get health certificates for my puppies when they live here.